Hello and good evening to you. Welcome to News 360 and it's live. One news up here at Desawa in Kanda. My name is Alfredo Conte.
And I'm Natalie Fort. Let's get into the headlines for this evening.
News 360 headlines is brought to you by
relatives and friends of the victim of Tuesday's Alajo shooting petition Attorney General, Interior Minister and Inspector General of Police to ensure justice is not delayed.
U.S. Ambassador to Ghana Robert Jackson expresses displeasure at what he describes as high levels of corruption in the public sector.
Also in the bulletin this evening, an international relations expert repeats calls for governments to change the name Flagstaff House to Jubilee House.
Energy Ministry fears a possible lowering of ECG staff morale when concessionaire takes over the company.
And on the international front, Kenya opposition urges Elections Commission to declare Raila Odinga winner of Tuesday's presidential election. We've got the details of these stories for you, as well as the very latest from the world of sports and entertainment here on News 360. Remember, we're streaming live on 3news.com as well as TV3 Ghana on Facebook. Let's
go on to our first story this evening. The Energy Ministry is worried there might be a dip in the Electricity Company of Ghana staff morale when a concessionaire takes over the running of the power distributor. Speaking at the inauguration of a new ECG board, Energy Minister Boakye Jako said the lack of staff motivation is a threat to the challenges already confronting ECG.
Ghana has obtained a grant of $498 million from the Millennium Challenge Corporation to invest in the power sector. A major aspect of the compact is the ECG Financial and Operational Turnaround Project. It seeks to strengthen the governance and management of ECG by bringing in a private sector participant under a 20-year concession arrangement. Despite assurances from government that there will be no involuntary layoff of workers as part of the deal, ECG workers say they would be left worse off.
One of the major risks identified during this transition period is the possibility of a dip in staff morale. If not checked, this lack of staff motivation threatens to worsen the challenges already confronting ECG.
A project is currently underway for a technical and condition assessment of ECG assets. According to the Energy Ministry, the PSP transaction envisages ECG will be an active asset owner. Energy Minister Boakye Jako says the restructured ECG is expected to be a bulk power trader.
The concessionaire is expected to pay for the use of ECG's assets. It is therefore imperative that ECG updates and hands over a credible list of assets to the concessionaire.
Chairman of the 8-member board, Kelly Gajekbu, said he is committed to working with ECG workers to find an amicable solution to their concerns.
The first thing is to listen, so that's what the board will be doing. We're coming in fresh into a situation which has been going on for quite a few years. So the first thing we have to do is listen and educate ourselves, inform ourselves. Then we can begin to diagnose, then we can begin to prescribe solutions.
An international relations expert has repeated calls for government to, as a matter of urgency, change the name Flagstaff House to Jubilee House. Dr. Vladimir Intridantso is of the view the Flagstaff House is a colonial relic, adding failure to change it will misrepresent the commemoration of the Ghana 50th anniversary.
Dr. Vladimir Intridantso was speaking at a forum organized by the Dankwa Institute in Accra. The forum was to discuss the advent of the United Gold Coast Convention to Ghana's political struggle. The international relations expert, Dr. Danso, was worried the previous government changed Jubilee House to Flagstaff House. He said such acts tend to affect Ghana's history.
if Nkrumah were alive, he wouldn't have taken the name Flagstaff House. Jubilee represents our history. Jubilee of what? Jubilee of our independence. So I'm working with my children along. What is this building? It represents our independence 50 years.
During the discussions on the advent of the UGCC, Dr. Danso was emphatic. The first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, couldn't have founded Ghana alone. He recognized the role of J.B. Dankwa, Pa Grant and others who contributed to the liberation struggle.
Professor Evans Tamils, maybe a CPP is all right. And the choice of 21st September was to satisfy a constituency. But I thought he was trying to unify Ghana by saying that, look, all people played a role. So we are going to have Founders Day. And he meant S with apostrophe at the end. But Nkrumah being the arrowhead, so that we don't have these divisionist things we are doing, let's choose Nkrumah. And I thought my people or my friends of the left should have rather embraced this. People following him intentionally decided to make it apostrophe S.
A former Council of State member, Elizabeth Ohene, criticized some political activists who seemed to project Dr. Kwame Nkrumah alone.
President Kwame Nkrumah was not born on a Tuesday. He was probably born on a Friday, for he was known and called Kofi Annan up until he went to the United States and then changed his name to Kwame Nkrumah. Nothing wrong with changing your name, but it goes to show that we have been changing our dates of birth for a long time.
Other speakers, including Dr. Agri Dako, a political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, and Mary Owusu, a historian, called for selflessness and courage to foster Ghana's socio-economic growth.
We want to go forward. That these individuals also have skills. These days, people don't even want to learn anything. They no apprenticeship. I mean, people want to be rich overnight. How is that possible? So they were prepared. Most of them were self-made people. They had studied, they knew the trades, they knew what they were doing, they knew what they were looking for.
Today, some development experts say that our biggest problem is ownership of land. The fact that land is vested in families and chiefs. But we celebrate the Aborigines and what they did in 1897.
You had to go there.
Well, the former Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, is calling on African leaders to give opportunities to the youth to take up leadership roles instead of holding on to power. Delivering a lecture on leadership and public service, the former world leader said no one is too young to lead.
UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, after leaving office, has taken it upon himself to drive action towards a fairer and more peaceful world by mobilizing political will to overcome threats to peace, development and human rights. At a forum organized by the old students of Vansipim School to raise funds towards an endowment fund to promote education, the Nobel Peace Laureate said African countries have depended on natural resources for years without reflecting on its development. He stressed many elections on the continent lack integrity, and such activities by politicians will determine whether the future of Africa should be considered as a blessing or a curse.
Our youth are better educated, more connected, and have higher expectations than any previous generation. But what are their prospects? Every year, it hurts me and it shocks me to see thousands of young people drown in the Mediterranean in search for a better life because they do not think it is possible to have that life at home. It is profoundly disturbing to see so many Ghanaians included in the 2017 count of migrants who attempt to make the dangerous crossing across sand and sea to seek a new life in Europe.
He said Africa needs courageous leaders with true democratic credentials prepared to serve. He underscored the need to harness the potential of the youth and give them the opportunity to take up leadership roles that will lead Africa into the future.
We must offer our growing population, the young population, the opportunity for employment. We must allow African youth to lead us into the future with enlightened modernity rooted in African values. we must remember that one is never too young to lead, nor too old to learn.
He called for strong institutions and civil society organizations to hold governments responsible, adding the development of any country does not come from a single leader, but each individual has a role to play.
Kofi Annan, Dr. Kofi Annan.
Absolutely.
A person is never too young to lead. Quite a strong statement there by him.
And not too old to learn. Because, you know, there's a saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But that's really not the case. You are not too old to learn.
Yeah.
And you know, when you check a lot of the African countries' constitution, the age at which someone can contest for presidency is between 35 to 50, 40, that way. But when it comes to having them lead,
it's usually the older
something
ones.
Else, you know. But
opportunities for the youth is incredibly important.
It has to happen.
On to other stories tonight. Relatives and friends of the victim of the Tuesday Alajo shooting have petitioned the Attorney General, the Interior Minister and the Inspector General of Police to ensure justice is not delayed. A brother of the deceased, Daniel Sefa, fears justice may be compromised due to his self-acclaimed status.
Others took to the street at the garage, expressing their anger. The death of Richard Yabwedi, a junior master at a mechanic yard at Alaju Junction, came to many as a shock. Richard Yabwedi was shot at close range whilst at work late Tuesday by a self-acclaimed businessman, Charles Nana Frimpong. The accused, during a scuffle with a trotro driver over Access Way at the garage, pulled a foreign pistol, gave a warning shot, but the second attempt went straight into the lower abdomen of the deceased, who was few steps away from the action spot. Doctors at the Accra Regional Hospital managed to successfully carry out surgery to correct the ruptured kidney and intestines, but the deceased died late Wednesday. In spite of all these, the family of the deceased say the accused, Charles Nana Frimpong, is being treated like a king at the police station.
The law must deal with the one who killed our brother. Bwedi is a humble person and was nowhere near the confusion.
The police must make sure justice is served to the latter. This growing misuse of firearms must be checked before it wipes all of us from the earth. Government must step in and ensure that our brother's death is avenged.
Again, they claim pressure is being mounted on the district command to transfer the case because of the alleged self-acclaimed public status of the accused.
The
deceased is a human. Whether the suspect works at the presidency or not, it does not permit him to kill. The presidency is not a license to kill. We want the police to get to the bottom of this case and ensure that justice is served.
Daniel Sefa warned against any undue delay in justice delivery in the case.
If the accused thinks he's linked politically, he should know that no one is above the law. He might know or work at the presidency. That is his cup of tea. We also have our trust in the media and the police to fight for us.
Charles Nana Frimpong has meanwhile been remanded into police custody by an Abeka magistrate court to reappear on Monday, August 14.
Definitely, the youth there asking for justice, but state security agencies have been asked to use new technology to help retrieve unregistered arms in civilian hands. Reacting to the killing of a mechanic at Alajo in Accra, a security and safety expert Adam Bona is insisting it is time to use a radical approach in dealing with illicit arms in public hands.
Case of a minor misunderstanding over where to park at a mechanic yard in Alajo, a suburb of Accra, turned violent on Tuesday, leading to the untimely death of 34-year-old mechanic Charles Boedi following a gunshot. This has generated public debate over why the suspect resorted to a gun at the least provocation. It is estimated that there are 2.3 million weapons in civilian hands in Ghana, with only 1.2 million out of that number having been registered.
We have a ticking time bomb, which if we are not careful, is going to consume all of us. The day those who have these arms, whether what do you call it, registered or unregistered, decide to turn the guns against the vulnerable people of this country, I am telling you that our security forces or the security agencies would find it very difficult to bring this issue under control.
In 2016, the Small Arms Commission, together with the Interior Ministry, initiated a program targeted at encouraging citizens to turn over their firearms. But the security analysts want a more radical approach to deal with the situation, suggesting a search to retrieve the guns from individuals.
The police mount searches, and usually they do physical examination of vehicles, they do physical examination of body, and that alone is not enough to, sniff out a gun or a firearm or a bullet or an ammunition or something. But the sniffer dogs are trained to do that. And also the use of technology. There are systems that will tell you there is some ballistic element or bullet or something hiding somewhere for us to get it.
Blaming the growing insecurity to the waning public confidence in state security agencies, he also cited over-politicization of issues as a factor.
You don't have to be an expert to know this, that sometimes the police finds it very difficult to even continue with certain prosecutions because we are so polarized, where people think once it is politics, I'm free.
He challenged the police to expedite actions for proper investigations to deliver justice for the deceased.
Certainly a very worrying situation. Then the actions of an individual in possession of illicit arms is highly unpredictable, and that's why it's very important to deal with the issue of illicit arms. I'm just going to run you through the firearms in Ghana. Between the year 1981 and 2013, the Police Firearms Bureau registered 128 weapons to civilians in the last 10 years. Fewer than 35,000 weapons licenses got renewed annually. Also, over 1.2 billion people were holding weapons illicitly, and there's been an increase of over 850% in the last 12 years. Now, as you see on the screen, the ratio of illegal arms to population is 1.25, and 2.3 million weapons in civilian hands in Ghana, with only 1.2 million of that number having been registered. 2.3 million in civilian hands, and only 1.2 of that number are actually registered. That shows the extent of the problem here. Regional breakdown: 1.9% of the number are from the Ashanti region, 1.7% Bono Ahafo region, 16% from the Greater Accra region, 9% from the Upper East region, and 8% from the Central region. And the highest so far has been in the Northern region with 39%. And the government is obviously putting in place tackles to handle the proliferation, talking about preventing it from getting into the wrong arms, marking, tracing, and increasing intelligence gathering to enhance the work of security agencies. Certainly people's trust or lack of trust in security agencies results in such situations happening like that which occurred at Alajo. Alfred?
Absolutely, Natalie, and that's where really the concern is. The focus has always been on those with illicit arms. I mean, those who are holding arms and have not been registered or do not have the lawful right to do so. Now, Mr. Kuting is joining us on Skype. He is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Counterterrorism and Security. Mr. Kuting, good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us. Over the period, the focus has been on illicit firearms. But with what we gather with this particular incident, this gentleman is a registered arms user. It appears we're not even safe with those who have the license to use the arms legally.
Yes, thank you and good evening to your cherished viewers. In fact, the Alajo incident is a tragedy. And like you rightly mentioned, those who are even registered users of these arms, how well trained are they? What processes do they even go through to get this license? And I want to just correlate with what my other security experts said. In fact, more often than not, these arms in the system, the users are even more dangerous. I mean those who have been registered to use them. Our systems are not good enough to make sure that proper checks are made before these licenses are granted. You realize that you can sit in the comfort of your home or your office and a gun will be registered and brought to you. And the fact remains that we have very fine laws or processes in acquiring these things in our books, but our institutions are simply not working. And sometimes when I'm hard on our security agencies, they tend to say, oh, I'm being not charitable. There is endemic corruption. And when I talk about corruption, it's some private individuals who have taken it upon themselves to line their pockets. And as I speak to you today, Alfred, if you want to even challenge me, let's try tomorrow. You call someone you want to license a gun. Monies will be requested, and you don't even need to go through to get the processes done. First, this guy in question, when was he issued the license? Who issued him the license? What processes were taken before these licenses were granted to this user? I think that until we begin to do retrospective assessment of some of these things and those on the line given some punitive punishment, I'm not sure we'll get anywhere. We always talk as usual and nothing happens. Look, a life that we are talking about here, somebody lost his life tragically, not due to any fault of his, because someone feels that he has a political access or connections and someone has blocked his way and he has access to a gun, he can kill his fellow human beings. For Christ's sake, we are not in an animal farm.
But, Mr. Koto,
and I'm sorry for being emotional, you understand?
But I get your point.
This issue is one issue that I cannot just comprehend. A needless loss of a young man for no apparent reason.
Okay.
And this afternoon,
you make a point.
Agitation by these protesters, it came to my notice. I went to the police station, and truly, this young man was in the office of the policeman instead of being in custody. And these are the things we are talking about. No one is above the law.
Mr. Pook, I get the point, and you make the point earlier on, and I've been looking at our laws. There's a strict regime when it comes to the acquiring of firearms, but it is the implementation, and this can apply to every other part. But for you, where you are as a security analyst, why aren't we able to implement this strict regime, which even requires that you, as a registered or licensed gun owner, you don't even pull your gun in a place where there's increased provocation? Why do we have the case where there's a strict regime, but it's not being implemented? People have to die at the hands of those who have licensed arms. That's the problem.
Like I mentioned, the system is simply broken down, and there's endemic corruption among these officers who are tasked to carry out these duties. Look, this tragic loss of this gentleman, I think it should be a wake-up call. And we should do a retrospection of all the people who are in charge in issuing or in control of making sure that some of these processes are done. And let's do some analysis. How many firearms over the years have been issued? What processes went through before such firearms licenses were given? Until we are able to do a reconciliation of some of these things, we will not be able to expose the gaps and where the failure is coming from, other than attributing the whole situation to our system failure or our institutions not working. We need to do a retrospection, see over the period how many licenses has been issued. And look, I want to disagree a bit to my other colleague. There are so many illicit arms in the system.
Okay.
I think the best way to go is arms amnesty. We did that in the past. A lot of people turned their arms in, and we can still do that. and make sure that those people who are even having license in the system from periodically, we call them back to check their backgrounds, whether they are still qualified to still hold such licenses.
Great. Thank you. You know, because this is in the law. Every 6 months, this license has to be renewed, but it's its implementation that's the problem. But I'm grateful. Thank you. Mr. Emmanuel Kuting is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Counterterrorism and Security.
On to other stories this evening. U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, Robert Porter Jackson, has expressed displeasure at what he describes as a high level of corruption in the public sector. Speaking with TV3 on the sidelines of the swearing-in ceremony for Peace Corps education volunteers, he revealed 5 major U.S. companies have withheld their investments in Ghana because of corruption. The United States of America have shared diplomatic relations since 1957. Ghana hosted the first cohort of Peace Corps volunteers to serve overseas and currently host 160 volunteers. In the last 6 years alone, 37 American companies have invested in Ghana. By the year 2016, there were 79 new investments and trade deals totaling $800 million. Companies such as Uber, Procter & Gamble, and Pizza Hut have recently begun operations in Ghana, leading to job creation and tax revenue. U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, Robert Porter Jackson, is worried the increasing level of corruption in the public sector is driving out key investors interested in doing business in Ghana.
In the year and a half that I've been here, I can cite 5 specific companies who decided not to invest, primarily because of concerns about the way government procurement was being done. And so I'm hopeful that a special prosecutor's office and action by that office will send a key message that Ghana really is open for business that wants to operate openly, transparently, and without facilitation fees.
Upon taking office, President Akufo-Addo stressed the establishment of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, saying monies belonging to the state frequently find themselves in the pockets of individuals. Ambassador Robert Jackson called for the speedy establishment of the Special Prosecutor's Office to help curb corruption. He further bemoaned the difficulties in obtaining land titles in the country.
Land titles are a challenge. Getting the necessary licenses quickly, getting the Export Promotion Agency or other agencies to move quickly on financing can be a challenge. So we see that there are opportunities here. We believe that Ghana can be a real gateway for U.S. investment.
He commended Ghana for positioning itself as a leading tax-tolerant apparel manufacturer in West Africa. The ceremony saw the swearing-in of 22 U.S. Peace Corps volunteers in the education sector to serve in science, maths, IT, special education, and teacher training in schools countrywide. We're still live here on News 360. Let's take a look at what's still ahead tonight. Energy Ministry fears a possible dip of NECG staff morale when a concessionaire takes over running the company.
Just as you saw earlier in the bulletin there, the Energy Minister making that particular concern known. But the international front, the opposition in Kenya urges the Elections Commission to declare its leader, Raila Odinga, winner of Tuesday's presidential elections.
Right, you're still watching News 360. Good evening to you and thanks for staying with us. It's time now for us to do the latest in the world of business. My name is Nana Ikuya Mensah Abrampa, and beginning with our very first story for tonight, government has cautioned banks to cooperate with the implementation of the Treasury single account or risk shutting down. Now, the Treasury single account, TSA, according to Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, will ensure a robust and disciplined macroeconomy.
TSA policy, which began in 2007, was met with some challenges because it had no legal backing then. The establishment of TSA has received legal backing with the passage of the Public Financial Management PFM Act 921. Clause 45 to 53 of the new Act makes provision for cash and asset management by the government, under which the Treasury single account is prescribed. At the launch, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta said with cost of interest on domestic debts, it is essential to have all banks on board.
When you talk about crowding out of the private sector, that is because we come out for so much in T-bills. So if we are not going to be doing that, then the banks can also begin to be more professional about lending to the private sector, and we will not be creating a situation where interest rates are rising.
The new account, he added, will give the opportunity to create fiscal space within the economy. The head of Revenue and Cash Management at the Controller and Accountant General Department, Dr. Mohammed Sani Abdullahi, explained that TSA is expected to enable the government to manage its cash flow prudently and to ensure the judicious use of public funds. Governor of the Central Bank, Ernest Addison, who was present, gave assurances.
It has very important monetary policy implications in terms of our liquidity management and the impact of liquidity management on prices generally. So we are all very happy. It's a very, very good policy. We will try to do our best to implement it.
The first phase of the implementation process is set to cost about 2.2 billion cedis.
Right, so we've been picking reactions on this particular one, talking about the Treasury single account from the Bankers Association. We'll be bringing that to you shortly. But away from that, the African Center for Energy Policy says the Mineral Revenue Management Law will ensure transparency and accountability in the mining sector at a national level stakeholder forum on mineral extraction for sustainable development here in Accra. The center indicated a revenue management law will help Ghana achieve the highest benefits from the mining of minerals.
Has been mining minerals for over 100 years now. The recent discovery of iron ore in commercial quantities at Shaini, a community in the Zabzugu district of the northern region, is expected to bring a lot of economic advantages. At a national level stakeholder forum on mineral extraction for sustainable development in Accra, the executive director of the African Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, Benjamin Boache, indicated the country has over the years failed to properly plan the extraction of resources.
What other benefits are there beyond direct revenue? What industries can feed into the extraction processes? These planning processes do not define our decision to mine. What we have been doing in the past 2 years is to look at the iron ore deposits in Shaini to see what policy recommendations we can give to government to ensure that we extract sustainably.
He encouraged government to invest into geological data on the country's mineral deposits in order to leverage on it during negotiations.
We have some data that if we can get the Minerals Commission to do a little more work, we can have a more comprehensive data that allows us to go on the market for companies to compete, for the project. That way you can increase the value that the country stands to gain.
Head of Policy at ACEP, Pauline Annaman, suggested government amends the Mineral Act 703 to remove the discretionary powers of the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
And Section 5 of Act 703, which is the current Minerals and Mining Act governing the mining sector, allows the Minister some discretion in awarding contracts. That was the case in the petroleum sector. We saw how bad it was, and we advocated for open and competitive bidding, and that has been done. We want a change for the mining sector as well.
ACEP also recommended a mineral revenue management law. The law ensures that proceeds from the mining sector are used for viable and sustainable projects instead of being spent on recurrent expenditure.
We do not have any law that spells out how mineral revenue should be allocated and to what sectors to support sustainable development. So it is hard to track and trace how government has used our mineral revenues from the past.
To some more news tonight, Verify Intelligent Interface and partners have inaugurated the 2017 edition of the two international fairs, Power Elect and Construct Ghana. Now, the fair will bring together over 200 exhibitors across the globe to provide solution to power and construction challenges.
Many of the power and construction challenges that have bedeviled the industry have often been as a result of improper construction works by non-professionals. The Power Elect and Construct Fair has made available international brands with leadership in electrical cables and gadgets, solar-powered equipment and safety equipment, among others. The over 200 exhibitors from 15 countries will also provide professional advice to clients and observers who may patronize the fair. The Chief Executive Officer of Verify Intelligent Interface, Jean Joshua, noted participants will have an opportunity to compare products.
They are here to make partnership with Ghanaian companies, technology transfers, international B2B meetings for the Ghanaian companies. So we have a lot of technologies which can be provided to the Ghanaian industry and also to the West African regions.
The Indian High Commissioner, Berinda Sain, disclosed more Indian companies will be investing in the Ghanaian economy, especially in the power and construction sector.
Lots of Indian businessmen who are participating in this exhibition are thinking of putting up manufacturing bases in Ghana. They already have started setting up their manufacturing base here, and within 1 to 2 months the production would be rolling out.
The exhibition, which is an avenue for prospective investors to explore the construction and power industry, is taking place from August 10 to 12.
Right, so finally, just before we go, let's go back to our earlier story talking about the Treasury single account, and we picked some reaction from the Bankers Association of Ghana, which is impressing on government to address their concerns about the cost involved in the Treasury single account for the various commercial banks. Alhassan Andani is the head of the Bankers Association of Ghana.
The reasons that the minister has given for withdrawing government funds are valid reasons. Secondly, it's part of the law which has to be implemented. And we're happy to say that they had consulted us since May, for us to look at the various modalities. And we've also made, some representations which they have accepted. But the point we're making is that really, for us as an industry, it is not going to be a pool of funds that government has, and will not bring it back into the market. They will have to pay for services, contractors and other people that we finance. They will have to pay them and pay them quickly. At the moment, the average life of any government certificate is 18 months. Hopefully now, if they have money and clear sight of what their financial resources are, they'll make payments quickly, so this will come back.
And there's more news on 3news.com. Thanks for your time. My name is Nanikia Mensah Abrampa. Return shortly with the latest in sports. Have a good evening.
Hi, good evening, and it's time to bring you all the latest in the world of sports with me, Thierry, right here on News 360. Let's go with this one then. So yesterday we brought you a report on the history of Ghanaians in the English Premier League. Remember? We took you back to the days of greats like Tony Yeboah and Asiedu-Dartey Lamte. But what's of the following generation that includes the likes of Michael Essien and Sule Ali Muntari? The legacy of these men left behind for the current crop to follow is immense. Can they hold on to it?
Yeboah, Michael Essien and Sule Muntari were in a class of their own and left huge marks in their respective clubs. They spent their best years in England and have contributed greatly in changing naive perceptions about the ability of African players. Kevin Prince Boateng signed for Tottenham Hotspur in the year 2007. His opportunities at the club were limited. He played 25 matches and netted 1 goal and was later loaned out to Borussia Dortmund. He, however, returned to the English Premier League when he signed for Portsmouth in 2009, making 27 appearances and scoring 5 goals. Sule Muntari had already blazed a trail in the Southern team from 2007 to 2008, where he won the FA Cup, the club's only silverware till date. Muntari's stint with Portsmouth was special. He played 29 matches, scoring 4 goals, then moved to the West side, where he joined Sunderland for a brief spell, appearing 9 times only.
In Muntari's time at the Black Cats, he played with John Mensah, who showed signs of greatness for the team, but his stay there was hampered by niggling injuries. He played sporadically for the team until he was shipped out eventually. Within the same period, John Pencil was kicking it for Fulham in London. He featured in 75 matches and helped the team qualify for the Europa League final, where they were beaten by Atletico Madrid. Just after the World Cup in 2010, Asamoah Gyan signed for Sunderland for a then club record £13 million. Albeit signing a 4-year contract, Gyan stayed for only a season, scoring 10 goals in 33 games. He struck a good partnership with Danny Welbeck and blew teams away. Gyan is remembered for scoring twice on his Premier League debut against Stoke City and scoring at the Stamford Bridge against Chelsea.
All right, so let's move away from that. Let's go straight to some other news. And in Ghana football, when Kumasi Asante Kotoko clashes with Accra Hearts of Oak, it's more than just football. There is more at stake. Their most recent game at the Baba Yara Stadium pulled thousands of fans to the stadium, including traders who took advantage to the occasion to do business. The two teams were also involved in some spiritual battle. Surprised? Here are some of the behind-the-scenes actions at the game.
It was an intriguing day of football with a lot more to serve spectators than just football on the pitch. The atmosphere was charged as Kotoko returned to the Ghana Premier League action for the first time since their bus accident weeks ago. Against Accra Hearts of Oak, the stakes are even higher. But what's telling here is how traders took advantage of the occasion to do business. Business boomed as traders who sold paraphernalia recorded huge sales from fans who traveled to support their clubs. Jerseys, flags and wristbands were all in high demand. Food vendors were present to sell at the stadium, including an Accra-based chef who is popular at the Accra Sports Stadium, Ni Okradi Tego.
I'm always for big match, no matter where it's been played. Once it's the soil of Ghana, I have no reason why I should not be there.
Whenever Kotoko and Hearts are playing, we earn a lot. We can even earn 3 times on the normal match that we play here. Kotoko and Hearts match is a very nice game for the sellers here.
While business was booming at the stadium, there was the infamous spiritual battle between the two clubs. Hearts of Oak bars wanted to enter the stadium through the exit point instead of the main entrance. This caused an upheaval at the gate. Indeed, when it's a Kotoko versus Hearts game, expect much more than just football.
Very, very interesting if you are a fan who troops to the stadiums or the venues of some of these Ghana Premier League games. You do get to see some of these things that never really are captured on camera. But let's get away from that. Let's go straight to some bodybuilding or weightlifting. We are getting into the minds of some of the strongest men the nation has seen in recent years as we build up to the final of Ghana's Strongest Season 6. One of the finalists promising to put up exciting displays on Sunday is Mustafa Ahin. The man known as Mayweather believes it is time to shine.
It's not every event you used to do. Some you have to do is mathematics. If you think here you are not good, you do like 1, 2, then you leave. To concentrate where you know you can blast. This is how you're supposed to do your competition. It's not everything, because that's why if you can lift everything, then no competition. But once you are lacking some of the side of the event, then there is a competition. So I have to look at the event they are bringing, things I think I'm good to blast there and get my points. So everybody should come to Achimota Mall to come and cheer Mayweather, to blast everybody, because I have trained well and we are not losing, to lift the title.
All right, so that is it with, Ghana's Strongest. But remember, later tonight at 8:50, Wade Van Niekerk is going to be running in the 200-meter race final. And that could be another gold in the offing for the South African. We'll bring you developments of that particular one. My name is Thierry Nyan. Thanks for joining me.
Welcome back to News 360. Time now for some entertainment news. And names of some movie industries have made global impact and attracted international recognition. However, Ghana's Gallywood is yet to hit the limelight. Adra Amofa Osei filed the following report.
For a little ride.
Talk of names of movie industries and quickly Hollywood and Bollywood come to mind. For the love of flashy lifestyle and celebrity gossips, America's Hollywood continues to enjoy its popularity across the world. Although there have been many historic linkages to the name Hollywood, the most popular amongst them is that of prominent landowner in America, J. Whitley, who bought a 500-acre land in California and named it Hollywood, which now houses the movie industry's headquarters. India's Bollywood is a combination of Mumbai's former name Bombay and an extraction from Hollywood and has become one of the most booming film industries on the globe. In Ghana, their soap operas are mostly talked about and their movies have warmed their way into a lot of hearts.
Ever had sex with other women? Moving on.
What do you think is wiser? In West Africa, Nigeria's Nollywood is a competitive movie industry for most countries. The name was derived from Nigeria and Hollywood, hence Nollywood, and has most of its collaborations with Ghanaians. While these industries are recognized, Ghana's Gallywood is yet to gain international status. Abdul Salam Mumuni is a movie producer.
Years back, most of the movies we are shooting, we normally put Gallywood movies. But Gallywood movies is not recognized outside, it's just within the country. When you take your movies outside, all African movies are under Nollywood movies. They only know African content are under Nollywood movies. It's Nollywood movies that are recognized.
Regardless, he believes the situation will only last a period of time and will gradually get better.
We'll get there because now the industry has changed its route to different diversion. So we're just waiting to see where he's going to stand. When he is able to stand, then we'll come back together and see the way forward for the industry.
We have some problems that if the drum face is there, you don't beat the side and side. You have to beat the middle.
But with the emergence of Kumawood, could there be an Accra Wood, Tema Wood, or Cape Wood? Time will tell.
Well, definitely. Time will tell, that's all we say. But radio and TV personality Nana Shoko, who has been off the scene for some months, has welcomed a baby boy, her first child. Rumors of a pregnancy sprung up early this year, but the actress refused to make any comment or even post about it. Well, though pictures of her child are yet to be seen, those of a pregnancy photo shoot have been circulating on social media platforms with some congratulatory messages pouring in from her colleagues and well wishes. Let's go over some international news.
Kenya has urged the Elections Commission to declare its leader Raila Odinga winner of Tuesday's presidential election. At a news conference in Nairobi, an opposition spokesman said unnamed sources within the commission have told them Odinga gained more votes than incumbent President Uhuru Kenyatta. Meanwhile, the commission says it is the only legal body to declare election result, adding that the process of compiling the final result is ongoing and will be announced on Friday.
Now, it's clear that supporters of Raila Odinga are not happy with the results that are coming in, showing that Uhuru Kenyatta is in fact in the lead, even though it hasn't yet publicly been declared finally. These are votes provided by Reuters of 99% reporting, so it's practically a done deal. Uhuru Kenyatta, 54.3%, representing, which is 8,159,652. And Raila Odinga with 44.8%, which is 6,742,300. 129. So it shows clearly that Uhuru Kenyatta is in the lead with 8,159,652, much to the supporters of Odinga's displeasure. And that's what it looks like in Kenya, Alfred.
Absolutely, and it's amazing we have a lot of things with Kenya and Ghana in common now.
We do,
They have held a press conference saying they're in a comfortable lead. It reminds me of what happened in December in this country, but we'll leave it to the viewers to judge. But hey, thank you for joining us here on News 360. My name is Alfred Akansi.
And I'm Natalie Fort. We've got more news on our website, 3news.com, and news at 10 later tonight. We'll simulcast on 3FM 92.7. Next is Tashan. Enjoy your evening.